We are going to be covering basic test light usage. Test lights are a great tool to quickly determine whether or not you have a good power or good ground going somewhere that you need to see it. You can use them in either direction. You could hook to negative and then check for positives. It lights up. Or you could actually hook it to positive and then look for grounds in different locations. So it depends on what you're looking for as to how you hook it up. In this particular demonstration, I'm going to hook it up to the ground side of the battery. If I'm close to the battery, I can do that. If I'm not close to the battery, then I'm going to have to find a chassis ground, some sort of metal that's clean that I can make a decent connection to. A lot of times the fuse box is up under the dash, so you'll have to find like a little metal stud under there, something that's actually grounded to the body. If you hook your test light up and you're touching 5 or 10 different fuses and you're not getting any light, double check your ground. Also, whenever you hook up to ground, go ahead and go to a source and check it to see if it's lighting up. Otherwise, you could have a burned out bulb in this, and it's going to give you bad readings throughout this whole test. So this is a really efficient way to check fuses. A lot of people will actually check fuses by pulling each individual fuse out and then taking a look at it. You can sort of see whether or not the fuse is bad if you do it that way. Here is an example of some fuses. So this is a good fuse, and this is a bad fuse. There's no connection in the middle there. There is a connection in the middle on this one. What I wanted to show you with these fuses is instead of having to pull each one of these out and actually visually look at it or hold it up to light, you can take this test light and touch the top of the fuses. The way the fuse is made is these legs are actually extended up through the top of the fuse. So what I'm doing here is taking my test light and actually touching this little metal point right here. Sometimes the plastic is built up around it, so you'll actually have to push the test light down just a little bit to make the connection. But that's what I'm doing on these fuses in this truck right here, is actually just touching the top part of the fuse there, and you can see that it's lighting up. Here's a large fuse, and you can see it still has the terminals where I could touch. And what that tells us is, if I get light here and I get light here, it's telling us that the voltage is coming through this fuse, it's crossing over the fused section, and it's coming back out this leg and going to our circuit, so we can be sure that our fuse is good if we see power here and here. Here is the size of fuse that's actually in this truck. Again, you can see at the top, there's a little metal tab sticking out, so I'm just kind of pushing my test light down into those. So I'm going to go through here and check a few. And you can see how fast. This fuse box here probably has 20 fuses, and I can check all 20 fuses probably in less than a minute. It would take you a minute to probably pull 2 or 3 fuses out and actually inspect it. And every time you're pulling one out or putting one in, you take a chance at spreading the terminals. So this is a great way to do it. One thing that I see people get hung up on is if they check a fuse, like this one here, and I have no power. Well, a lot of people think, oh, it's a blown fuse, it's a bad fuse. Well, no, it's a good fuse, possibly, but we don't have any power going through it to check it. We need power for our test light to work. So that's just telling me that this circuit is not actually being used right now. So I would need to figure out, if I'm supposed to have power on this fuse, what does it take to get power to this fuse? I would need to refer to a wiring diagram. Maybe the key needs to be turned to the on position. Let's say we're diagnosing a headlight situation. Well, we may need to turn the headlight switch on before we can get power out here. So check your circuit and know what you're dealing with, and a test light will help you eliminate voltage, power problems, ground problems pretty quickly. But definitely know the circuit you're working on. Make sure you're actually activating the circuit before you start checking this. On these fuses, if I'm checking this fuse here and I got power, and then I switch over to the other side and I don't have power, then that tells me there's a break internally in this fuse and this fuse is burned, and I would need to replace it and possibly do further diagnostics to figure out why that fuse was blown.